FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And welcome. You are listening to and perhaps even watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is the last day of September 2020. Well, got somebody on, special guest, known him for many years. He can really provide some enlightenment on 2 separate issues. One, what really happened to hospitals in Florida, particularly up in the Tampa area during the COVID supposed epidemic. Well, I guess we could call it a pandemic for lack of a better term. And the other thing is the approaching, or are we perhaps already in a civil war in the United States? And I want to get your impressions on this. I want you to write me. Email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, now my good friend Naresh Vissa is on with us now. Naresh, your wife is an ER doctor in the Tampa area. And I remember speaking with you during April, I think the last time we spoke, or maybe May, about what was going on with COVID, because presumably ER doctors are going to bear the brunt of COVID because those patients are going to be coming in for immediate treatment in serious condition and really putting pressure on the system. What happened in the case of your wife's hospital?
Yeah, well, first I want to make some clarifications. Number one, she's a hospitalist. So she's a general physician internist who works at the hospital. So the ER department will discharge or transfer the patient to her group. So the bulk of the virus patients, so I call this the SARS-2 virus. This and that's a completely different topic on the nomenclature and how the Chinese brainwash the entire world into calling this COVID when it's medically SARS-CoV-2. So I'll call it SARS-2 for the purposes of this discussion. But so basically, if somebody had severe symptoms and it wasn't looking good, they could check themselves into the ER. This is for anything. This is not just the virus. This is if you, let's say you get shot, you go to the ER does the emergency medicine that they need to do. And then once they're done, they're not just going to send you home because you probably need additional care. You need to be looked at by various specialists. So then they transfer you over to the hospitalist group, and the hospitalist physicians will look after you. In the case of April and May, when really that was the only nationwide lockdown that was recommended, the hospitals were empty. Not just I go to the same hospital that my wife works at for my own personal medical needs, whether it's primary care or my allergy issues or whatnot. So in April and May, when the nationwide lockdowns were recommended, and the bulk, I think it was like 42 of the states locked down, I did stop by because you weren't allowed to go. Like my appointments got canceled. It all became telehealth, or unless really you couldn't go to the hospital unless it was a serious emergency. So I drove by, and it was a ghost town. It was empty. It looked like there was nobody even in there. And that's because the virus didn't hit. There was obviously a lot of fear rampant through the country, and the virus had not hit Florida yet. So was it worth it to lock down? We'll never know. I mean, maybe we will 2-3 years later when all the data comes out, but it was a ghost town. And then as far as the groups go that were taking care of the virus, and not just here in Florida, but also my very close contacts in Texas and in other places, many times the cases just never came. When the virus did hit in, let's say, July, August, it was like any other busy month in Texas. In fact, the CEO of the Texas I think it was a Methodist hospital system in Texas, in Houston, came out and said, this is like any other January as far as business, quote unquote, goes, as far as a number of patients in the ICU. Look, ICUs have to operate at at least an 85% capacity in order to generate a profit. So when news headlines started coming out saying ICU capacity hits 90%, running out of hospital beds, the average reader would look at that and be like, oh my God, they're at 90%. Like they only have 10% left. And here in Florida, apparently January, this is what I heard, that January is generally the busiest month for patients. Maybe it's the flu, maybe it's something else, but that's apparently a very busy month for hospitals in general. And July was very similar in numbers, just in pure numbers to January. In the same case in Texas, apparently May, I think, is the busiest month, and their July was very comparable to May. But nobody reached a situation, no state reached a situation to what it was like in New York, the state that you used to live in, where cardiologists were being asked to become ER physicians, and psychiatrists had to, round ICUs. It never got to, not even close to getting to that point here in Florida, at least.
Yeah, well, in Florida, the governor, love him or hate him, what he did was initially, when the lockdowns occurred and COVID started becoming a factor, he sent the National Guard out to nursing homes and long-term care facilities, shut them down, tested everybody. And we've had a lot of deaths. I think over a third of the deaths in Florida have taken place at nursing homes and long-care.
It's actually half, yeah. I saw it was actually half, more than a third. And really the bulk of this virus, if you look, it's funny how everyone has an opinion about this, but to me, what's important is the facts. And I'm a data guy, and throughout this interview, I'm going to be sharing numbers and data and facts. So approximately all of the death across the United States, when I say all, I mean 50% of all deaths have occurred in nursing homes. In the case of New York City, the governor made a huge mistake in making the decision that, our hospitals are going to be way overrun, so let's go ahead and start transferring patients to nursing homes, even when the hospitals weren't overrun. There are many hospitals that were not overrun. Yeah. And instead of transferring them to other hospitals, instead of transferring them to other places, he said, let's just put them in nursing homes. And they now attribute close to 15,000 deaths to that decision of just putting patients in nursing homes. Yeah, well, we're seeing in New York, the last I looked, there were 21,000 vacant nursing home deaths, which was 13,000 more than is normal for that time of the year. That's why we call him Killer Cuomo. And there was a hashtag Killer Cuomo. There was a plane that flew over the beaches during Labor Day, and it was a banner puller, and the banner was, "Gov killed my Nana." And well, look, the unfortunate part of all this is, and we're going to talk about the politics, but it's an election year. And from day one, from the time President Trump cut off essentially the borders from China and said there are no more flights coming into China, this entire virus became politicized. And the issue is that, to me, there has not been a separation of medicine and state. We have a separation of church and state very clearly defined by our founding fathers. But this is the first time that I saw that there was no separation between medicine and state. And you have Dr. Fauci, excuse me for mispronouncing his name. That's Mr. Doctor to you, Naresh. And he is, he's like on a media tour going around talking about how great Andrew Cuomo has been with this virus and how other states should follow his lead.
Killing
I guess he didn't say this.
Killing off the old people.
Yeah.
Great job. He was so good at it that his example should be followed. No, I totally agree with you. And I created a saying, they say that war is far too important to be left to the generals. Well, pandemics are far too important to be left to the doctors. And
well, look, again, the average person, they just say, oh, he's a doctor. You got to listen to your doctors. But they don't understand he's never practiced a day of medicine in his life. The moment he graduated from Cornell, I think it was Cornell Fellowship, Weill School of Medicine, he joined the government. He joined that infectious disease group for the government. And so he hasn't been around the patients. He doesn't have that real world practical experience. He's really just a government bureaucrat at the end of the day. And a lot of people don't know that. And then on top of that, just look at how wrong he's been. He did not support President Trump in shutting down flights from China. He didn't think that was necessary. He said this virus was just like any other kind of, global virus that happens every 10 years or so. Like, it's not something to worry about. So that's why in February, nothing was done. He said that face masks are for people who want to make themselves feel better about themselves.
Well, I have to agree with him there, but yeah.
Well, look, I'm very open-minded to all ideas. Let's put it that way. I wear my face mask because I have to. But I'm open-minded to all ideas. But the point here is he said that, okay? But then a month and a half later, he completely changed, he completely switched and went the other side. And people say, oh, well, that's science, that's medicine. You're telling me a guy with 50 plus years of experience as an infectious disease specialist, going all the way back to his medical training, knew next to, didn't know the validity or the effectiveness of face masks. I mean, this is supposed to be the most foremost expert in the world when it comes to infectious disease.
And then when he flip-flopped on it, he never gave us an explanation. It was like 1984 in its audacity. 1 minute, nobody in the country is wearing a face mask. The next minute, everybody is, and nobody's questioning it. That I find interesting.
And he, on top of that, his predictions, he said, oh, we're expecting 2 to 3 million Americans to die from this. And then he told the Senate, he said, this virus is 10 times as deadly as the flu, as if he had some kind of research or data to back this up. And he just made that claim to Senate. And then Senate all of a sudden was like, oh my God, we got to shut down across the board. And it turns out that 10 times that he told the Senate in March, completely wrong, way lower, wrong. The face mask, completely wrong. He's just been wrong and wrong and wrong.
Everything. What about the ER treatment for COVID? People are coming in, they can't breathe. Go into any hospital in the country, you say you can't breathe, they're going to give you corticosteroids. They're going to give you prednisone or whatever the other is. He specifically said, the CDC, not to give patients steroids to open up their breathing passages, which was turned out to be completely wrong and deadly. In any event, history will be debating this for decades to come, Naresh. But the other thing that I find interesting, you've experienced this firsthand, and that's why we're having you on, and that is, are we in a civil war? Are you allowed to have beliefs that are different from others and not face persecution? Or does that just give the left the right to persecute you because they don't agree with you? And why don't you tell us what recently happened and your experiences, because it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, well, part of the reason you invited me to be on the show is because Bloomberg Businessweek magazine, which has a huge readership and circulation worldwide, did a feature on the upcoming election, and they included an entire probably page dedicated to me and why I'm voting for President Trump, or not even why I'm voting for President Trump. It had more to do with that I am voting for President Trump. And I tell you, Kerry, I knew, having worked in media for the last 12 years and being an online and digital marketer myself, the hate, the straight up hate came flying in online. It was incredible. I was on one hand, I was kind of pleased. On the other hand, I was like, man, these celebrities who've got these Twitters and Instagrams, this is just way overwhelming. Way overwhelming. It's too much. So I got over 1,000 comments, not just trolling me, but a bulk of those, I got my online reputation management team to look into a lot of the comments and the messages. A huge bulk of them were bots. They were Chinese bots from China, and they were able to directly trace all that back to them.
Not even hiding it. They're not even hiding it. Amazing.
Well, it takes a little bit of research to identify that, but in any case, man, answering your question, are you allowed to speak? Are you allowed to have an opinion? This is not unique to 2020. This has been the case, I think, since about 2014. Right. This was long before President Trump came on the scene, where if you didn't agree with the Democrats or President Obama, you were seen as un-American or a racist. That's they've cheapened that term so much. The left has cheapened that term to where it holds no more meaning. That term racism. I was on Newsmax TV maybe a month ago, and there was another woman on the panel that I was on who just outright came in and said 100% of Republicans are racist. If you're a Republican, you're a racist. And there was a minority of African-American panelists who was also on. And so, it was like, oh, so now people of color are racist against their own people? Like,
you don't agree with them, then I guess that's the case. Well, it's kind of to be expected. And we're not talking about your choice here, pro-Trump or anti-Trump. That's kind of almost besides the point here. The point is that we used to be a nation where people could agree to disagree. And I remember my mother told me when I was younger, and I didn't really understand it, a gentleman never speaks about politics and religion.
Yep.
And maybe that's what it comes down to. We just shouldn't discuss it, period, with anybody unless they're close friends and you know how they feel. But I have close friends I feel like my relationship has suffered with because I don't agree with their opinions. I see it in the dating scene. Swipe left if you're for Trump, or swipe left if you don't support Trump. And it's permeated every corner of society. Sports. Look at how they've damaged and even nearly destroyed their brands by taking on these political issues. Because when I tune in,
it's terrible business.
Yeah, when I tune in a sports program, I'm not like thinking, well, who are you supporting? Let's poll the players before the coin toss and find out who they're supporting for president. I don't care who you're supporting. And it's the same thing with Hollywood. And I think it was Laura Ingraham wrote that book, Shut Up and Sing. It's like, shut up. I don't care about your politics. Most of you Hollywood types, as well as sports people, barely got through college, if you did get through it at all. A lot of you dropped out of high school. I don't need your opinion unless I ask for it. And even then, I'm going to be hesitant. So it all boils down to, Naresh, that people just open their mouths all the time now when they should just keep their mouths shut.
Well, this is largely because of social media. It's made it easier than ever for anyone to have a platform to share whatever they want to share. So you said your mother told you this, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. And that has held the test of time, really. But the difference now is there's social media for people to have a voice. That was not there 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It was not there. And so that's causing even more discord and divide. People say they're blaming, the right was blaming Obama for a lot of this division in 2014, 2015. Then now Trump is taking the blame for it. But really, the blame is social media. And look, social media is good. I am not anti-social media, but I think people need to understand that their echo chamber of their 200 friends on Facebook does not accurately represent the country or the world. And that's why so many people, if you come out and say, oh, I support Joe Biden, the right's going to look at you and be like, what's wrong with you? Who are you? And then if you come out and say, I'm going to vote Republican down the line, or I'm a Republican, the left looks at you like you're crazy. Like, what? Yeah. You're part of like 10 people who support the Republican Party. And that's why the left had it handed to them, not just here in the United States, but in Great Britain, in my motherland of India. All the leftist parties had it handed to them because the left said, you're not allowed to say this. You're not allowed to have these views. And the right fought back and said, we don't need to burn down buildings to make our voices heard. We don't need to kill each other on the streets to make our voices heard. We don't even need to peacefully protest and act like we're accomplishing so much in life to make our voices heard. We don't need to paint a mural or have slogans on the back of our jerseys or on courts to make our voices heard. We're just going to go on election day and vote for the candidate that we like, and the country and our life is going to move on.
Exactly. And that's the thing. For the left, the election outcome is everything. For the right, it's just another event. Yeah, you might not be happy about it, but you know what? Life goes on, do your thing, and you wait for the next election or the next. And it's really that simple. Just bringing this full circle back. We started out with COVID, and you mentioned about the politicization of COVID. And, you could figure out, ask people, maybe not so much now, but a month ago, if you said, you think COVID is getting better? I think it's getting worse. And based upon that answer, you can know everything about a person's politics.
Yes.
Without any further questions, because the right invariably would say this thing's coming to an end, it's going to be over soon. And the left invariably would say, no, the worst is yet to come, we're all going to die, or some great exaggeration. Am I exaggerating here?
Well, that's what the left was saying. And as of this recording, less than 0.08, maybe 0.07, but let's just say 0.08. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Less than 0.08% of the US population and the global population has suffered from this, average age somewhere between 77 to 79 years old. And it's just, Kerry, like you said, the left right now, their way of fighting back is throwing tantrums. I mean, now we have a Supreme Court justice nominee who is being vilified by the left because now all of a sudden she apparently illegally adopted her children from Haiti. She's a white woman who adopted Black children from Haiti.
That makes you a bad person right there.
Oh, terrible person, adopting children from Haiti. Yeah, I know, horrible. She can't become the justice because that's going to affect how she interprets and enforces the U.S. Constitution, which is the primary role of a Supreme Court justice.
Oh, the madness of it. It's total insanity that we've seen here. Like I said, it's about who you support. It's about, there's a certain vision for America of tolerance, but I don't think tolerance goes far enough. Acceptance. You don't have to agree with someone else's views, but you have to accept the fact that they have a right to. And in their minds, in their beliefs, they believe they are just as right about their beliefs that you believe in your beliefs. You think you're right in your beliefs, and until something comes along to create cognitive dissonance, you believe your views. Then if you find out other information that contradicts it that you believe to be true, then you have a decision to make. Well, you're going to adhere to your views in spite of the evidence, or you're going to change them. And that's where growth comes in. So the whole anti-tolerance and incivility here, really a movement against personal growth, get down to it. Because one of the things, as you age and as you mature and as you gain wisdom in life, your views change. But
Absolutely,
that view never changes. And therefore, they're static, it's sclerotic, and in effect, anti-personal growth, which to me is one of the principal reasons we're here, put upon the planet to grow personally, to become the best people that we can become and fulfill our potential. But also,
well, yeah, well, I'll say your show is the Financial Survival Network, and to tie it back into personal development and finance, I have not been a voter. I just never, I started my career, or my new career, working at a large company, which you know about, Kerry, a large company that has been flagged by Google as a fake news organization. And we profited heavily off of people's emotions when it came to politics and how much they hated Obama or how much they loved some kind of political candidate. And so I saw firsthand the power of media, and that people believe whatever they want. But what did I learn there? What I learned is what's most important is focusing on yourself and those most important to you. What's happening on CNN and Fox and what you see on TV, on Twitter and Facebook, none of that is going to help you take care of your family, take care of your health, take care of yourself, grow your business. The solution for all this political nonsense, and before I tell you that solution, that's largely why I didn't vote. I just didn't bother, because my philosophy was, regardless of whether it's Trump or Clinton or Obama or whoever, I am going to succeed. I'm going to succeed in my relationships. I'm going to succeed in my business. I'm going to succeed at life. I'm not going to give anybody so much power to the point that I'm going to be brought down by some individual in the White House or some individual in City Hall. That's a philosophy that I preach and that I try to tell people to take. And the solution for all this, what I call weapons of mass distraction, is for people to build wealth and long-lasting relationships for the next generation, so that our children and grandchildren, in your case, Kerry, can compete against the likes of the Trumps and the Clintons and the Bidens of the world with a lot more than just marches, rallies, hashtags, prayer vigils, or social media.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it at that, Naresh. Hey, people want to find out more about your work, check out what you're doing. Where do you go?
Go to Amazon, type in my name, Naresh Vissa, Naresh Vissa. You can find all of my best-selling books on online and digital business, e-commerce, and marketing there. And my personal website, nareshvissa.com, NARESH VISSA, nareshvissa.com. Get on my mailing list, and I'll send you a free copy of one of my books. Just let me know what book you want, and I'll send you a free copy to all the listeners out there.
Very generous of you, Naresh. It's always great to have you on the show. And this is something totally different than what we usually talk about. We're usually talking about business, podcasting, the economy, etc. But in many ways, it's perhaps more important, because if you don't talk, it's just like a family. If you don't talk to your spouse, you're going to get divorced. Don't talk to each other here, cut each other out of the dialogue and the discussion, we're going to get divorced. And when countries get divorced, or groups within the country, it's called a civil war. And that needs to be avoided, and it's easily avoided, but the media is stoking the flames. All the riots that occurred, strictly a result of the media misrepresenting stories. Leave it at that, but we appreciate you coming on. Any questions, comments for Naresh, myself? We'd love to hear from you. Email us, al@kerrylutz.com, our website, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for a newsletter. Naresh, great to have you on. Talk to you again real soon.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure.
Success in Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.